Before we get started, if you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Let us explain.
Anchor has the tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast straight from your phone or computer.
When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more.
It is everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
And best of all, Anchor is totally free.
Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Hey Gabe, what's your house?
Vengeance.
Team Jacob or Team Edward?
Vengeance. Once again, here we are. Back from the future. Or should I say the past? Now, obviously, we've already seen the Batman. And we thoroughly enjoyed it, as you can tell from last week's episode. Now, at the time that this episode was recorded, we hadn't seen the Batman. And there's a bit you'll notice that seems out of place, or out of time. And now you know why. Also, once again, we are asking for your support. Just as how millions of people supported the war of Team Edward versus Team Jacob. Now, are we going to be your Edward or Jacob? That's for you to decide. And it doesn't really matter as long as you send us money. We love you. Okay, bye.
Welcome back to another episode of Searching for MacGuffin with your hosts, George,
Gabe.
Link and
LEIGHANIE.
Yeah, that was the part where you say your name.
LEIGHANIE.
She did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I know, but she paused. I'm sorry. Continue, Link.
Yes. For those of you who don't know, LEIGHANIE is our social media.
No, that's not right. No, she's definitely not our social media.
She's our social media manager,
Yeah, manager.
director,
Yeah. We went over what her
President.
title was, but you still somehow.
yeah, or in general, our social media.
Okay. Welcome to the show, LEIGHANIE.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks
All
for
those
having me.
cool posts you see on Instagram, that's LEIGHANIE.
What's Instagram?
It's a social media. It's LEIGHANIE.
So you might be wondering why we have a fourth voice on our episode this week. And it's because we have a very special topic to discuss. At least one that is special in the heart and mind of our social media manager, LEIGHANIE. So go ahead, take it away.
Today we're going to talk about YA dystopia. Young Adult Dystopia.
Young
Young
Adult
Adult.
Dystopia.
It was a movie, right? Starring Charlize Theron. It's called Young Adult.
And Patton Oswalt, right?
Yeah, but she was a full adult in that movie.
Is that a dystopian?
You lost me.
I don't
Oh,
know which one
oh,
you're talking about.
Oh, it's called Young Adult. I think she's a young adult writer in the movie.
Is it good?
So it is dystopian, like a starving artist.
No,
That's
she's
not-
very
What?
She's actually successful.
Oh, okay. I thought she was in a motel.
I don't know. She made another movie called Tully. I always get them mixed up. I don't know what happened. I think it was good. It was weird. But that's not what we're here to talk about today.
So I think we should start by discussing what YA means. How to define it, basically.
Yeah, because I don't know what it means. Well, okay, that's a lie. I kind of know what it means.
You don't know what it means? You're
You're
an
you
English literature
don't know what it
teacher.
means? Yeah, I
You're
don't really-
that's what it is.
Yeah.
You're
I haven't taught middle school for a while, and now all my 8th grade students who do not listen to the show are getting upset. But I haven't. I started as primarily in middle school, and I taught a lot of YA. In fact, I studied it in college. I read a lot of YA novels in college, but not necessarily this genre. So this is like a really specific genre, but it's been a while, and I'm trying to like get back into it. I think last week I recommended a YA novel. Again, not a dystopia, but oh no, we don't know when this episode is airing.
time travel.
We're getting our suits and we're traveling in time.
Several weeks ago in the past. Continue.
Well, what you mentioned is fair, like that you used to teach like middle school, middle grade.
Mm-hmm.
YA, I feel like people think it means that the audience that it's supposed to reach is supposed to be young adult, but it's actually the characters in the book are usually between like 15 and 18, 19
Yeah.
ish.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
I thought it was for young people.
I
No.
read that like almost half the audiences are adults, right?
Yeah.
I think it's
They actually are.
increasingly becoming more and more popular as the years progress with older audiences. I think traditionally they were always viewed as a younger audience because kids tend to associate with kids. So if
Right.
you write a story for kids, mostly kids will watch it. But I think we've seen in genre films too, and like sci-fi, like Stranger Things, Super 8, or even us kids who grew up with our Goonies and our movies like that, Gremlins. You grow up and you still like that stuff. So you'll still read or watch characters like that, even though you've already developed past those stages in your life.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because in anime, I think most of the characters are young.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is anime
Young
YA?
adult?
No,
I,
I don't.
I think it can be. I
Oh,
think a lot
Manga?
of it is.
Mhm.
Oh wow, we're redefining literature as we speak.
Ah.
That's what we do.
That's what I mean. That's not what I don't redefine literature, but I guess that's what we do now. So
So yeah, young adult refers to more of the characters' ages than the audience that it's supposed to reach, or the intended audience,
Mhm.
I should say. Common misconception.
I think
Now we know.
this happened a lot, especially with the Harry Potter books. That was the first time I experienced it.
Yeah.
Where it was just a bunch of adults you knew were reading the books. And I was like, I studied the first Harry Potter book in college because I took a adolescent literature course and did lesson plans on how to instruct in these books.
Oh, not conjure
Really?
spells.
No, we did not.
Mm.
It was I did not go to Hogwarts.
Oh,
You didn't go to
uh-oh.
Harry Potter's masterclass?
Yeah, no. Do they have that?
I don't know. I had masterclass for a year and I didn't look up any lessons, so
Yeah, so did I.
You didn't use
kind
it at all?
I'm kind of bitter.
It was that pandemic special where they're like, "Here's a super good price," so we all got it.
Nah,
And
I looked
never
at
turned-
an acting class by I couldn't even tell you who. The last week it was about to expire, and then I'm like,
Susan Sarandon.
I probably. But yeah, continue.
Would, because I'm trying to think now of YA. The fact that I just thought it was for young people,
Mhm.
but YA means that the characters in the book are young. So I remember in high
This
school,
was a real shock.
yeah,
to you,
yeah.
huh?
It was. I'm like, what? Because in high school they made me read 1984. Is
Yeah.
1984 not YA then? Because it's in high school. It's for high school students. It's YA.
I mean, it's not.
But
just
then
for
the
high school.
characters aren't old. Aren't young. They're old.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
I think
You're
for-
allowed to read non-YA things and
Yeah.
you read
You're
Shakespeare.
actually allowed to read whatever you want.
Is Romeo and
Is
Juliet
Romeo
YA?
and
Hmm.
I don't know what the parameters are, how many of the characters need to be young in
Or
order
It's
to...
16 characters under the age of 18.
Or how many hundreds of years have passed since the story was written? I don't know if you're allowed to write YA before YA as a genre is defined.
My mind is just blown.
So we should just end here because I think we've
Exactly.
illuminated
Done
the
the-
audience.
done our job.
Yeah.
So, there's young adult and there's young adult dystopia. Dystopia is just a genre of
Right.
book. What would you guys classify as dystopia in your heads?
Define or classify?
A lot of gray.
Both, if you want.
Okay. So Link is
A lot of gray.
providing
gray.
examples.
A lot of gray.
He's exemplifying dystopia. Well, I mean, it's a future world where there's a centralized control and uniformity is usually at the core of maintaining social structure in order to basically establish order. It's a utopia would be a figuratively perfect society,
Right.
and a dystopia would be one that's falling apart society.
Right.
Yeah,
The antithesis.
exactly.
Yeah. So in the late 2000s, early 2010s, there was this really, really big boom because YA dystopia had existed before. Then we talked about The Giver earlier. That came out in the 90s. 1984 came out.
Lois Lowry.
Is that how we're referring to that period? 2010s? Is that's what we're calling it?
we want to call it the teens
The 20 teens.
The 20 teens.
or just teens.
Wait. What do you do with 2010, 2011, 2012?
They get overlooked.
Okay.
Okay.
They don't matter. There was this big boom of this YA dystopia, and that's, I mean, top of our head, we talk about the big three,
Okay.
or that's how I classify them in my head, at least. And these are books that
Naruto,
really, yeah,
Bleach.
yeah,
One Piece.
LeBron, Dwayne. Wait, no.
I know.
yeah, the big three.
Okay.
You were on it. There was this big boom. And I feel like in my head the top three were The Hunger Games,
Ooh.
Divergent, and the Maze Runner series.
E?
And I think it's really interesting. As I was in my brief research in preparing for this episode, I thought about like why was there a boom in YA dystopia? And I'm sure you can study like social trends in general, but I actually read like several, I don't want to say articles because I don't know how official they were, but opinion pieces maybe on
op-eds
on how most of these books were written post 9/11.
Yeah.
Did you guys know that?
I mean, I didn't do any research, but just when you presented the question, I thought, well, September 11th is one reason why.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm thinking like, okay, so dystopia means the world sucks and is falling apart.
A lot of gray.
I was. Is Zack Snyder a dystopia?
Yeah.
Actually, he literally has a dystopia right in the Snyder Cut. The future, the nightmare.
Isn't Sucker Punch a dystopia?
Yeah, it's also a dystopia.
is.
That is
Please,
correct.
please.
YA dystopia?
They are, I don't know how.
Oh, yeah, they are young. Yeah, because they're like
Oh.
in ballet school or something. I don't know. Anyways, so that's what I was thinking. I was like, okay, this period, what's going on? And I was growing up. I was like collegiate level, graduated 2002. And I was like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I remember life's. I think we've talked about it in past episode. Like Fight Club is one of my favorite books and movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the running threads that really gravitated to me was that we have no Great Depression. The Great Depression is our lives. And there was no like event that to define us historically. 2001, September 11th, that was that moment. And it was like, okay, that's no longer true. This is a cultural shift into like taking stock of values, you know, what is privacy, what is security, what are you willing to give up in order to obtain things like the Patriot Act, you know, that relationship between government and you became more and more real, and the relationship of like societies around the world and how they interrelate to another. So that was the first thing that came to my head. September 11th, the reason why my life sucked growing up.
Yeah.
Wow. I feel like I learned so much.
So yeah, so I guess from this event, these authors started writing these stories with mainly these underlying themes. And you know, in times of great distress, what do people do but use things like this as a form of expression?
Absolutely.
And so we had the big boom in that time period. There are books. They were turned into movies, these franchises.
As they are wont to do.
Yes.
Is Twilight a YA dystopian?
It's
He's going through every title.
Yeah, like, that's what I'm
This YA?
I'm paying attention to what Leannie's saying, and I'm just thinking, is this YA? Is this YA?
Is Lord
It
of
is
the
YA.
Rings?
Lord of the
It
Rings
is
YA?
YA.
It's YA.
Not
It's YA,
dystopia.
but there's a lot of gray.
Well, I never made it to like the fourth book. So does like the world fall apart or something?
For what?
It does not.
What about the woods? I have very clear visions of the woods.
For what?
Twilight?
Oh, Twilight. I don't think I read any of those.
I read the first one.
Was it good?
There's a reason I only read the first one.
Oh.
I read all of them and love them very much.
Okay, I apologize.
Sorry.
For
No, it's
any
okay.
insinuation.
Are
It's
you
okay
team
for Pookie.
Ed- are you-
Conflict.
Are you Team Edward or Team Jacob? Okay.
No, I'm not Team Jacob.
Edward or Team Jacob?
I'm Team Edward.
Okay, cool.
Jacob is the like textbook pick me boy.
And a pedophile?
The worst.
I don't think those rules apply.
To wolves?
To
Nah, but he-
imprinting?
Yeah.
To
To wolves?
Okay.
Twilight is not YA
Okay.
dystopia,
Yeah,
but it,
just to
I
get back to the-
suppose is YA. Yeah.
Okay.
It was something interesting that you said caught my attention, that they wrote these books in response to the climate
Mhm.
at the time. We oftentimes talk about how art shapes our society,
Mm.
but oftentimes it's a mirror, a reflection to what's going on.
Right.
And there is like a reciprocal relationship there, because the stories we tell and the themes and ideas we share then shape a generation as they're growing up. But then that generation goes on to then write the stories and
Yeah.
share the ideas that will shape subsequent generations. So it's interesting that the genre would emerge, or at least gain mainstream popularity in this time period of turmoil and conflict.
Yeah.
Interesting. So do you think there's going to be a boom in, I'm not sure, in another genre of books because of the pandemic? It's a major event in our lives, right? Like 9/11.
You know, it's interesting. One could only
Probably.
That's a good point.
Probably. I wonder, people are wondering if, because of the political climate that we've had for the past couple of years, if it would kind of, there would be like a second kind of boom in dystopia again.
Yeah.
And there hasn't been, or not. There, obviously, people still write young
Mhm.
adult
Right,
dystopian
obviously.
novels. And some of them are, most of them, I'm sure, really, really good.
Mhm.
But there hasn't been. There's been a boom in, I don't even know if I could say this, of
You can say
people-
whatever you want.
of
It might be
people- no, no.
wrong, but
of stories of like teenage suicide or people unaliving themselves.
okay, yeah. I mean, I think you can see that trend with, what was that popular book that?
13 Reasons Why.
Yeah, exactly.
That was
Yeah.
a book.
Yeah.
It was.
What?
A YA book.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing.
Dystopian?
No.
No.
Okay.
No.
I feel like most of these titles, and we might probably get into talking about that. I feel like
Mhm.
I know about a lot of these books mostly because of like other pieces of media.
Because of media,
mostly
right.
like TV or
Adaptations huge.
or movies. That's kind of what brought me to. I mean, aside from the fact like Hunger Games, I think we mentioned before, was one of the big ones. That I started reading in class as the movies were coming out at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very interesting. That was one of my, I would say, first experiences, I guess, watching something in the theater as well as reading it at the same time and seeing the differences. And I thought it was really interesting, the comparison of the two. But I'm sure we'll get into that.
I think adaptation really gives you insight into what goes into the art form of
Mhm.
both writing and filmmaking, because like you said, when you compare those two versions of it, you start to analyze and understand, well, why did they make these decisions for film? Why did they make these decisions on the written page? And you start to see how storytelling changes depending on the medium,
Mm-hmm.
and like what mediums facilitate certain types of stories.
Yeah. Agreed.
Another thing that you mentioned
Mhm.
was the fact that it was a reflection, and Link asked, oh, so what about now in the pandemic? Does anybody else get kind of the feeling that media is trying to avoid the pandemic?
Yeah.
Because it's like we're a couple of years in now at this point, and no one has like ever worn a mask on any of my TV shows. There's a couple of comedy shows that had like a bottle episode during the pandemic
Mhm.
just so they could film something that touch upon it. But even those, like, I know it happened in Mythic Quest. It happened in, we had Parks and Rec, but like that show wasn't on the air anymore. But like in Mythic Quest, they do a COVID episode, and then once they're able to start filming, it's like, forget about it, moving on. You know?
Mm.
Do you get that sense that it's like the world has just kept going on TV and movies, and maybe when we look back at this time period, I mean, the next generation might not even realize there was a pandemic.
For most of it, yeah, I would say so. There are some like medical shows
Mm-hmm.
that they do live in like in a COVID world.
Mm-hmm.
But I just feel like the writers were like, ooh, something else we can add to the story.
Right.
So
It's like, this
it's not
season's gonna be
repetition.
easy.
Exactly.
I did I don't remember what the show is called, but I remember I think my cousin said that she was watching a show about I think it had to do with like young couples in therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what it was called, but she had said that the story did take place, like it moved into the pandemic times, and
Okay.
they kind of spoke on it, but I don't know how much, and I don't remember what the show was called. So
You can just put the title in the show notes. I'm just kidding.
Excellent.
There are no show notes.
if you're listening and you know what the show is called, you should DM us on Instagram.
Oh, look at that. Doing her job.
S4M podcast.
You just love saying that. That's what. Okay. So,
yeah, so I think going into adaptations, I think we can jump into talking about them. We can start with The Hunger Games. Personally, it's my favorite.
oh, absolutely.
Same.
Yeah.
The only
Agreed.
one- it's the only one I've watched.
Gabe,
Hence why it's the
Yeah,
favorite.
it's my favorite.
is that? Oh no, you've seen others, right?
The what?
You've seen others on
The other
today's list.
adaptations? Yeah.
Okay.
So the big three are
Once again,
The Hunger Games,
Hunger Games,
the Divergent series,
Divergent,
the Maze Runner series.
Maze Runner.
Yeah.
I've seen all of the Hunger Games, which
Same.
are my favorite.
mm-hmm.
I've seen 2 Divergent films
Okay,
and 2 Maze Runner films.
okay. I've seen all the Divergents. I don't remember any of them, and I've seen 2 of the Maze Runner films.
I've only seen The Hunger Games.
Like the first one?
First one?
No. Oh, the whole
The
Hunger
whole
Games
series?
Oh, okay.
quadrilogy. Is it
Quadrilogy.
Okay, so that's interesting because it's like a trilogy of books.
but then
Right.
it's like the
They're
last
four-part.
book. Yeah.
We established several weeks ago that quadrilogy is a made-up word that marketing uses, but I think it's a tetralogy and or just
That makes
epic
more sense.
or saga as a general term, not being specific how many chapters are in it. Although epic might be a little generous, saga perhaps it would be.
I have read and seen all of them.
Okay, I mean that's why
Probably
you're
several
hosting
times.
today's
Yeah.
episode.
Fair enough.
Makes sense.
Do you guys remember when you first heard of the Hunger Games, or when you read it, watched it?
I remember the book getting a lot of traction in circles that I was in.
Yeah.
Before there was even a movie. So I got in on it early because I kept hearing about this book.
Right.
Oh,
right.
like adults. Oh, we're reading the Hunger Games. Oh, we're reading the Hunger Games. The Hunger Games. And I'm like, okay, cool. I didn't know it was a YA novel at the time because it was just that popular, especially among older people. I was hearing it more from older people than
Than younger
from
people.
students at school. And the other part of it was I think they announced, oh, they're going to adapt it. But I was just like, oh, this guy's going to be in it and she's going to be in it. I think Philip Seymour Hoffman. Around the time they cast Philip Seymour Hoffman, I don't know why I have a very specific. No, he's
Rest
not
in
in the
peace.
first one.
He's
No,
not
he's in
even
the
in the
second
first one, yeah.
No, so it wasn't him. I remember they started announcing the cast.
Woody?
Was it Woody Harrelson? It,
It
must
might
have been
have
Woody
been.
Harrelson,
Yeah.
right?
Was it Stanley Tucci?
It might have been
He's also in
Tucci.
it.
Yeah. Okay, I think they just started announcing multiple
Yeah,
of them.
that's
The
fair.
cast is amazing for
Yeah.
these
It's
movies.
It's stacked.
Yeah.
Actually.
So I went before there was any like visuals or anything, just a cast announcement. I was like, okay, now it's time for me to watch it for me to read it because everybody's been telling me about it. And that's when I figure out, oh, this is a book. Well, LEIGHANIE explained to me not for children, but it's a YA
but
novel.
it's a YA novel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the other thing about it is they tend to be very, not simplistic, but not overly complex. Like
Yeah.
when it comes to themes and vocabulary. So it is very accessible for that age group. And I think that's why they become popular among older people who may not be stronger or lifetime readers.
Mhm.
They're good entry level books
Yeah.
They
to
are.
get into
Because
reading.
there's no BS. Like
Mhm.
it's just it's supposed to appeal to a younger audience that doesn't have you would assume such a large attention span, doesn't want to read through.
I feel like it's captivating, yeah. I think it was in sophomore year of high school. Do we know when the book was the
The
first one was
first book came out 2008, and then I think they were sequential after that by year.
Okay. So yeah, I was 2011, sophomore year of high school, and I think that they added it to the reading list because it was so popular.
Oh, really?
Oh, you
Nice.
had a
I'm
cool
pretty
hip
sure that's what it
teacher.
was. Yeah, that's the year I went to.
I
Sunset.
taught Catching Fire to 8th graders.
Excellent choice.
The year that the year that it came out to theaters. So we watched Hunger Games in the classroom,
Mhm.
and then I took them to opening screening of Catching Fire the day of. So they got it like first thing in the morning on release day.
Yeah, our teacher gave us extra credit if we went to go watch opening weekend.
We rented out a theater.
Love
It was
that.
amazing.
You did?
Love that.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, we had a
Back then?
screening.
Wait,
Yeah, you can set up a class to just have the screening.
Oh, with the class. Okay.
Yeah, and it's like before the theater opens, so you literally have the
Yeah.
whole theater to yourself.
That's awesome.
My sister's class did that with the Polar Express in the 5th grade, and I was so jealous.
Yeah, they open concessions just for you guys too, so it's like you get to pick. You can pre-order like a pack. We did the whole thing where like everyone gets like the snack pack,
Right.
and then they open concessions. Everybody wants to buy anything, and they must have spent like $3,000 probably. You know, just
Crazy.
What movies coming out that you could do that with? That sounds like fun.
movies come out now. I don't.
Come to you at home?
That's
Now we watch.
You can
Can we
Zoom.
do
Now
the-
we watch
You can-
Clifford the Big Red Dog.
You can
on
Zoom.
over
HBO Max.
Thanksgiving, like lunch, the weekend that it came out, and I'm so you give some, you lose some, you gain some.
Can we do this for Batman? Like, can you do this for Batman?
Can I do it for Batman? It's gonna be a hard sell.
I mean,
Although I once did
You
do
mean
like,
rent out the theater?
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Or
taught
the
the
whole year
school.
class.
yeah, I taught the hero's journey with Batman Begins. Here's the thing with that though,
There
like what
you
you're
go.
saying, that's a risk, bro. Because
Yeah.
you haven't seen
haven't
that
seen it
movie. You don't
yet.
know what's in it. Like I knew exactly what was in.
I also-
Catching Fire.
That's whatever. I don't know how
No,
easy
go.
tickets are going to be to get or rent out a theater like that.
Yeah,
Oh, for that one, yeah.
yeah.
Maybe we could rent it out with our with listeners.
Our viewers, no.
we can
what if-
host a
double
live
down.
We
episode.
can host a live, yes, of the Batman.
What if it's the most disappointing 3 hours of your life?
Oof. Well,
It won't be. I
No,
know
I
it in my
mean-
heart.
Okay.
we're gonna have fun then, no matter what.
Mark this.
We'll have fun no matter
You
what.
can
And
quote me on that.
if it's bad, we'll laugh. I think it's a great idea.
I don't think it's gonna be bad.
So the Hunger Games.
So the Hunger Games. The first movie came out 2012, which is probably when most people,
Started reading it.
became acquainted with it.
Mm-hmm.
I read it. The book came out 2008. I think.
Yeah.
I remember I was going into high school, and I remember, I distinctly remember being in the hallway, and people like holding the book
Yeah.
and like talking about it and sharing it like that. And I'm really lucky because my mom's a reader. My mom doesn't she reads a ton of YA and most of the bigger series, except for Harry Potter, which I've been dying for her to read, and she just refuses to. And I think she's just so sick of me talking about it that she I've turned her away from it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a story for another time.
The fandom driving people away from the very thing they love?
What?
No way.
Never heard of that before. Except the fandom is just me.
Yeah.
And my sister.
You're part of the fandom.
Yeah, I remember people reading it in the hallway, getting really excited about it, reading it. My mom read it, and I don't remember seeing the Hunger Games. I remember seeing I remember seeing Catching Fire in the theaters. But yeah, they were really, really good.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to think of what other like book to movie adaptation was a big deal in the theaters
Besides Harry Potter.
besides Harry Potter, which I didn't read until like the last two movies anyway, so I kind of missed the bigger parts of that.
I mean, I'm older, so for me, it was The Outsiders. I didn't see it like when it
Mm.
was adapted, but it was like to know here's this book that they made you read in middle school, and
That's
now
coming
here's
out.
this movie, and it has like all the famous actors. It has the Karate Kid in it.
It's the
So there was that for me. And actually, I think there is I know for a fact that there's a director's cut on HBO Max that I haven't seen. And it's
Really?
called it's called The Complete Novel or something like that. And
I was like, of the Karate Kid?
no. Yes. The Karate Kid, the complete manga. No, The Outsiders. And it's in my watch list. I have to get to it. That was Francis Ford Coppola, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So The Godfather.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no.
No, I was for the listeners in case. I was also
Oh, because you pointed at me.
I was also non-verbally pointing to Link because he's also has to watch the complete novel of The Godfather. He hasn't seen that
Instead
version.
of verbally.
It's
pointing
okay.
to Link.
The viewer saw it.
Yeah, verbally pointing at Link. Do you guys have any memories about your first time watching The Hunger Games?
I think that was the first movie I watched by myself. I made my mom drop me off at the theaters at midnight
Nice.
to watch it because I knew a group of like classmates were going, but I think they were going like either Friday night or Saturday, and I couldn't at that
Mhm.
time. So yeah, I went Thursday night. I had to save the ticket and brought it back in for class and got extra credit.
I was late into this, so I don't even.
Did you watch it in the theaters or at
No,
home?
no. I started watching them in theaters like the second.
Catching Fire?
No, the third one.
Mockingjay Part 1?
Yeah.
I remember going to this old rickety theater called AMC Mall of the Americas.
Oh,
And
man.
this theater, you could just walk into it because no one worked there. So you could
It's
just
true.
walk through the front door and just sit in a theater. And I'll always remember the moment that, spoilers for the Hunger Games, that Katniss volunteers as tribute.
Yeah.
And this group of girls just starts wailing, like openly weeping, like, "Ah!" And it lasted for like 12 to 15 minutes straight. And I was like, I really appreciate how passionate they are about this, but they need to stop because they're ruining my movie, and I always
They
remember
were probably inconsolable by the end.
that. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I had to watch it again after to understand what
Oh, really?
everybody said in the movie.
did they cry when PETA threw bread at Katniss?
I don't think they stopped crying from that moment.
I did.
Because I'm like, oh, that sounds like a sad moment. They're crying.
So, they have the movie. They introduce these, for the most part, for the main characters, these fresh-faced actors. Jennifer Lawrence being
Mm-hmm.
the main one, which
she was
is
a relatively unknown.
yeah, she was relatively unknown. I
I
don't.
knew PETA from somewhere. I knew Josh
he,
Hutcherson.
was in,
He was in
uh,
Bridge to Terabithia.
Terabithia.
Yeah,
Another
that was a big
YA.
one for me. Yeah, I like that.
Another YA.
Is that a
Oh.
book? That's a book. That's a book.
It is a book. I actually don't know if it's YA.
It
I mean,
has
they're
young
kids.
I
people.
think it might be
There
middle
you go.
grade.
What?
What?
It has young people and Zoe Deschanel.
I realized that
What?
my
Again, like 15 to 18, 19 years old. is
She's in
typically
it?
YA.
Oh, okay. So
Zoe Deschanel's in that?
yeah, she's a teacher.
oh
she is. That book and movie, I can't watch it again.
oh
That's
yeah.
the one. That's the one with like something happens in the
yes mhm.
water,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
Water's involved.
Guys,
Okay.
if you haven't seen Bridge to Terabithia,
Don't.
check
Don't
it
do
out.
it. Don't do it.
No.
There's a reason
Watch
why
it
they-
right now.
There's a reason why there's a bridge, so you don't fall.
Okay.
That's all
Continue.
we have
It's
to
not
say about
literally,
that.
by the way.
Yeah, Josh Hutcherson was in that before.
Wasn't he in that Journey movie? Journey to the Center of the Earth?
I don't know if that was before or after, but I think the first one was before. Almost. certain.
Actually, I think that might have been before.
Was this
Yeah.
Jennifer Lawrence like big breakout role, or I feel like there was something before?
I'm almost certain
I'm
this
pretty
was
sure
her
I think
biggest
this-
I
breakout
think this
role.
was it.
Yeah.
Okay,
She might have been. I'm sure she was in stuff.
Oh no,
before,
no,
but-
Winter's Bone.
there we go. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the
What?
one where she
It's
got.
like it was like
remember she got
Oscar nominated.
Oscar nominated.
Yeah,
from there
that's
on,
true.
yeah, like
What?
What?
What is it?
Winter's Bone. You don't know this is a Peter Jackson movie?
Yeah,
Yeah.
What happens in it?
Why don't I remember her at all?
There's like a murder.
I have no idea. I've never watched it,
A
Yeah.
murder.
but I
And she's
remember.
like- Did you see it?
I remember she got a lot.
I don't
of
think I
hype.
have seen it. I always confuse that and Lovely Bones
Movie
for some
night,
reason.
guys.
Lovely Bones.
Wait, maybe it's.
Oh, maybe that's the Lovely Bones that I'm describing.
With Tucci,
I always
right?
confuse them.
But
Huh?
she's not in the Lovely Bones. That's with another girl.
That's Saoirse Ronan.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now I think I'm describing the plot of Lovely Bones. I don't know what
Do
Winter's
they both
Bone is
have-
about.
Murder?
I want to say yes,
Murder.
but I want to tell you there's an 85% chance I'm completely wrong.
They both
Okay.
have bones, right?
They both have bones. This is established in the titles, yes.
Okay.
I think we need to watch Winter's Bone together, guys. It's happening. Moving on.
Yeah. So we get these people casted in these roles. Again, I read it, so I was kind of in it when it
Mhm.
happened. And I remember in the books, Katniss is described as like a relatively small girl.
Mm-hmm.
And Peeta's supposed to be this just like beefy guy. And they casted Jennifer Lawrence and Josh Hutcherson. I remember looking at it and I was like, I
don't see it.
don't know if that's gonna work. It did work
Yeah.
in the end. I don't think it was big enough for it to take away from the story. They're both great actors, so props to them.
It's almost like Tom Cruise as Jack Reacher, or Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. It's supposed to be really short, and you just like kind of roll with it because like he's so good.
Hugh Jackman's he's like 6 feet or something. Right?
Yeah, and Wolverine's supposed to be like 5'6" or something like that, shorter maybe.
Or like in another YA, Holes, where the main character is supposed to be chubby and Shia LaBeouf is not.
Or like
chubby.
another YA.
I didn't. Wait, is he really supposed to
Yeah.
be chubby?
Yeah.
I don't remember that from the book.
Or like another YA in Wonder when his mom's supposed to be Brazilian, but she's Julia Roberts.
It's Julia Roberto.
Right. Anyways.
Yeah, so they announced those cast members. Liam Hemsworth as Gale. I don't remember if he had been in anything before then either. I
No.
think he had been in was
think-
the last song before then or after?
I want to say
I
after.
want to say after.
After?
That's
Probably
a Miley
after.
Cyrus movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's probably how he
Would've
got that role.
The Nicholas Sparks YA?
It's depending on,
On
no,
the- on
I
the-
think it's
I
just
think
romance
romantic-
genre.
romantic
yeah,
YA?
romance genre.
Yeah, I think that's just romance. And then, like we said earlier, they had the Stanley Tucci's and the eventually Philip Seymour Hoffman's, etc.
One thing that I find
Kiefer
interesting,
Sutherland's dad.
Donald Sutherland.
Donald Sutherland,
One thing that I find interesting is that first movie is like a low budget indie movie.
I know.
Yeah, it really is.
And
you
you're
can
like,
tell when you're watching
yeah,
it.
and I'm like the director Ross. I'm like, and he really did a lot with what he had. It's kind of gritty, like
Mhm.
it's kind of like narrow, claustrophobic, and then it gets real big and
Yeah.
catching fire.
Yeah.
But he
It's
doesn't
just
direct the
epic.
ones
No,
afterwards,
that's it.
right?
He doesn't.
Man, poor guy. He does all the work.
Yeah,
He
With
did
a little
all the
budget,
groundwork.
all the groundwork with a little budget,
Mhm.
and then I don't know who directs the
and
ones
they
afterwards.
recast his cat too.
Huh?
What?
You don't know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the fans.
It was
were-
his cat?
No, it wasn't his cat,
Oh.
but the cat that he cast or casting director. I don't know. I don't know whose responsibility it is to cast the cats. Is that the casting director's?
That's fair.
Job.
I don't know. We should
Yeah,
look into
no,
that.
maybe there's an animal handler. Anyways, apparently the fans were not appreciative that the cat was not reflective of the cat in the novel, so they recast the cat for
The cat
subsequent films.
is supposed to look different than the first one. It goes to show you how much I paid attention to the
Mhm.
cat that I didn't even realize.
Yeah, apparently it was a
Cat was
big
different.
sticking point
Wow, I can see why it's not Academy Award nominated
because of the cat.
because of the cat.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think it is like what you were saying, or touching on what you were saying. I feel like these movies are like palpable to me, but The Hunger Games especially, like
Mhm.
the way it's shot, the colors, like they feel very palpable to me.
Yeah.
Which is I think part of why I love them so much. They're like it's a comfort movie,
What's your favorite from the Hunger Games series?
book or movie.
Either one, both,
They both would probably be Catching Fire.
same.
Yeah.
What about you guys? Talk now before you have nothing else
I'm
to
just
say.
trying to
for the
figure
rest of the
out-
I think
episode.
Which
I
is
think my
which?
favorite movie is Catching Fire. I think my favorite book is Hunger Games because that's the one that got me into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I don't really know.
You don't
Do we wanna-
care.
do we wanna
No,
know-
not that I don't care.
You don't
They're
remember?
Yeah, I remember. I think I agree with you guys. I think Catching Fire was
Yeah.
the best one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't like the fact that they split the third book into two
Two.
movies.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
Why do you not like the fact? Just because it was like more to watch,
Nah,
or
man, it's just this is for money.
You're just like
Did you like-
reticent to accept whenever they do that.
Did
Yeah.
you like the movies?
I did, yeah.
I think it's Breaking Dawn's fault. Actually, I think it's
You wouldn't say it's Harry Potter's fault?
that came
that
first,
came
right?
out. The last Harry Potter movie came out 2011.
Oh, okay. So Breaking
2012?
Dawn.
No,
So-
that's a lie. That's a lie. 2013 maybe.
So which one did it first? Harry Potter.
Mm,
Yeah.
I think
It's
yeah.
somebody's
I think
fault.
Breaking Dawn. I think they might have been the same.
Yeah, I think
Is that the
year-
first film franchise to do that though? Split something in.
like a novel adaptation. I think so, but I think it's
Probably.
definitely the start of that trend at that moment where
Yeah.
like Twilight was like, oh, we can make another movie and make twice as much money from the same
Yeah.
book, and then the Hunger Games did it. I think you could have compressed it into like one long film. I think that both films are good, but I do think both of the last and the penultimate chapters of the films, they don't live up to the heights of Catching Fire, because Catching Fire is such a nice tight narrative.
They knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
Or Suzanne knocked it out of the park, the writer.
Which is the one that introduces Finnick?
Catching Fire.
Yeah, that's the best one.
That's why we
Yeah.
love it, let's be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
All right, brief overview then, since I can't remember what happened, just so we get a better idea. Hunger Games. It's the first Hunger Games.
She wins.
She-
the
she-
Hunger- spoilers.
yeah.
Full spoilers.
She
for anyone
wins.
Full
who's never
spoilers
read.
for the rest of this episode.
She wins. the
She
Hunger Games.
survives and makes it to the other Hunger Games books. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then
She wins by cheating the system,
correct.
sticking it to the man.
Yeah, she shoots an arrow at the.
That's not how she wins.
That's not how she wins? Well, I guess
That was
The
that.
smart guy shoots an arrow at the sky.
That's Catching
that's
Fire.
Catching
Fire.
Fire. I thought you
Oh,
meant
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Kato.
I thought you meant Nimrod.
No, I meant Jeffrey
They're
Wright.
gonna
Skarsgård?
Yeah.
they're gonna eat the berries, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's.
Oh,
That is
that's
one
right,
thing-
because they were gonna.
You know what? I think Toby, that guy.
McGuire?
No, he's not in the Hunger Games.
Oh.
Pizza time?
The voice of the voice of the games, like the broadcaster.
Stanley Tucci.
Stanley Tucci.
No, the other guy, his partner.
Oh, Seneca Crane.
No, that's not the voice.
Yes,
Huh?
it is.
The broadcaster that's alongside Stanley Tucci's character of what's his name? Fleckerman. Flickerman.
Caesar Flickerman.
Yeah, the other guy, the like short,
Oh, I don't remember his
balding.
name.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, apologies to
That's
him.
okay. He's the one that talks at the end. He's like, "Oh, the rules have changed,"
Right.
and then there's like, "Now you have to kill each other," and they're
Yeah,
like, "We're gonna
yeah,
commit
yeah.
double homicide,"
Y-
which was a
Yeah.
controversial point at the time. I don't know if you guys.
Yeah,
Got
the double homicide.
Yeah,
Thanks.
they were like, "Oh,
yeah, the double
like
homicide.
no mutual suicide." That's what it was like. We're gonna kill ourselves, like double
We're gonna
suicide.
cheat this. Yeah, I
yeah.
remember that is one thing I think that maybe doesn't
Translate
in
for
the,
sure.
Yeah, book
Yeah.
to movie, because in the book she knows that they're not gonna let them both die, so she
Yeah.
says, I'm gonna fake it. She's not actually trying to.
But she's not communicating with PETA.
No.
So she's also not sure that PETA's not going to go along and accidentally get himself suicided.
If he dies,
That's not a
he
word.
dies.
Not the best thinking, but
But it was
they've
what
been
she
through a rough
had.
time, so
Okay, so let's talk about that.
yeah.
That's the biggest thing for me that gets lost in translation.
Mhm.
The fact that Katniss narrates the books.
She does.
And like we're left to interpret scenes where we clearly know what her motivation and feelings and also her like confusion, because she's just lost all the time during especially the first one. I would say even throughout the whole series, has no idea what's going on around her, and that gets lost because you have to interpret what her motivations and what's going on around her on film, because it's just quiet scenes.
Mm-hmm. That is the downside of adaptations.
Yeah. I wouldn't even say it's a downside though. I feel
think-
like it's a new way
You
of
think
Yeah, I
it's a-
think you
experiencing
just
the
got to
story.
be creative
Yeah.
in how you portray that. I mean, there's been other adaptations where there is narration,
Mhm.
and I mean, for example, like the Dune series. The first film, they had the narration in their heads, like they had the thoughts and they were saying it in the film. And the new one, it's kind of just like, I think we had spoken about this before we watched it. There were certain things that
Aren't clear.
exactly,
Yeah.
and that can be misconstrued or taken a different way than it was originally intended. But I think you're right. I think the challenge of doing that on film just makes like it adds to the creativity of it, of making such a thing.
Mhm.
For the actor as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Because ultimately it does lie on
What-
them.
Yeah, what
to
they
emote.
bring.
On their performance.
Yeah. So, Hunger Games ends. They're gonna both eat the nightlock berries. I think
Yes.
The suicide berries.
the suicide berries.
That's not what they're called.
And they don't. They call it off. They win. I don't know if it's a relief necessarily, because I think, and this is another thing where in the book, Katniss does realize once they leave that things are not all okay. I think in the movie it seems like they're just going to ignore it and go on.
Mm-hmm.
Katniss knows from the bat that President Snow is not going to believe it.
Yeah. And that leads us to Catching Fire.
Leads us to Catching Fire.
Long story short, it's the Court of Quell.
Yep, they have to go back again.
Can you imagine
Sucks.
that?
No, that's the worst possible
Yeah.
option.
Now we'll accept double suicide.
Katniss has to go because she's the only female tribute ever.
But they still like go through
They
the act
still
of
do.
picking her name from the
No.
thing. They're like, I wonder who it'll be. Oh, it's the only alive
A little
people.
unnecessary, I would say.
It's called ceremony and tradition.
Tradition.
Protocol.
Hey, Mitch gets picked. PETA volunteers in his place.
Can I talk about how my favorite scene from this book is not in the movie?
Yeah, go for it.
Do you know what I'm going to say?
No.
Okay. So I remember having read this book and getting ready for the movie, and I was like, the greatest part of this movie is going to be when they flash back to the year that Hamish won and how he did it.
Mm-hmm.
And I waited the whole
And
movie.
they never talk about it.
And there's moments too in the movie where you're like, here's where they could put it.
Uh-huh.
Nope, that moment passed.
Director's cut, bro.
Here maybe? Nope, that moment passed.
Which is a shame.
Yeah.
How does he do it?
He throws the axe into the force field that surrounds the arena, and the force field ricochets the axe back into and basically decapitates his opponent.
Which actually is what gives Katniss the idea to
Yes,
blow
and
up
that's
the arena.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
That
that
was-
was just lost in
That was
the-
awesome.
Yes, so
I
epic.
love that ending.
The
It's Link's favorite part.
one
He
thing
he nods
Link's favorite part,
silently.
you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah, for sure, yeah,
I mean, you did mention it, so you
Yeah.
remember it. One thing when I was like going back now to like prep for, because I haven't read those books in a while. I do watch the movies, like you
Mhm.
said, you watch them probably every year. I watch them probably the
You
same.
watch them.
Going back and like trying to compare from the book to now, I forget that like probably 50% of the book takes place before the Quarter Quill. Actually,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
like there's like a year and several months.
That's right.
In between
The tour.
all of that.
Yeah.
He's like,
I
yeah.
remember that.
But obviously, for very understandable reasons, most of the movie takes place in the arena, which
You mean you don't want a 4.5 hour?
I mean, I'm not complaining.
Adaptation. of Catching Fire.
of trying to live a normal life post.
Not
Yeah.
just split into
horror.
2 films, man. Come on.
That's true. You know what?
Just wait for the next one.
New Line Cinema would have done it. Carry on.
That's true. Oh, now you.
Oh, Gabriel getting triggered of his completely rational dislike for the Hobbit films. Continue.
Do you hate the Hobbit films?
I don't.
He did
hate them?
You go speak for yourself.
I went back and watched them, and I'm just like, why is this 3 films? And I don't know. It's just Lord of the Rings is such a masterpiece for me. And then going to the Hobbit, it's just there's so many different things that I mean are different, and I mean I don't really blame Peter Jackson.
What?
Like I don't know.
That
That's not
ended.
where I- that's not where I thought that was
that
gonna
ended
go.
in a weird place.
The Hobbit isn't as epic as Lord of the Rings.
No, of
I
course.
dislike them spreading it out over multiple films, but it's not the director's fault.
Well, I mean, Peter Jackson wasn't even like initially supposed to
Yeah,
make
it was
them
gonna- it was
to
gonna
do
be-
them.
Wasn't it be Guillermo del Toro?
Yeah, but it was gonna be 2 parts,
Can
and
you
then Peter
imagine?
Jackson came aboard, and
Bruh.
then they were like, "Oh, we're gonna do 3."
Bruh. I can't stay mad at Peter Jackson for
Okay.
too long.
Right. You haven't even seen Get Back.
Have you seen King Kong?
Is it terrible?
No, it's
No,
great.
It's great. Supposedly, I haven't seen it yet.
It is great. As someone who's seen
I
it.
mean, it's like 15 hours of the Beatles. Like, of course, it's great. What are you gonna do?
How do you mess that up?
Yeah. So why would you say I was thinking it was gonna be bad?
Because like you can't stay mad at him, but like, love him so much. Watch Get Back.
Yeah, I'm at a point in my life where there's too many things to watch.
That's fair. That's fair.
So 15 hours of footage.
Is it weird that my dislike of them splitting it up into multiple films had me irrationally believing there were 6 Hobbit movies?
Actually, no, I thought that
Because
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
I was like, there was so many Hobbit movies. Why? I thought Link was gonna ask if that was why.
No, because Bilbo and those.
No, he answered his own question. Don't worry about it.
Bilbo.
He's
and-
not a
and-
young adult.
He is not a young adult. And neither are the
Yeah, Frodo's like 50.
yeah.
Neither are any of the dwarves.
dwarves. There we go.
Frodo's not in them.
And Gandalf's like thousands
Oh, we're
of
talking
years
about
old.
Hobbits still. They're talking about Lord of the Rings.
So no one's old. No.
I did also teach The Hobbit in 8th grade.
I wish I would have taken your class.
Yeah, it would
No, I'm
sound like a
sorry.
cool teacher.
Yeah, there's so many stories that George says, and I'm just like, I really wish I was still
Yeah.
in school to take him as a teacher.
The funny part is that we all had the same teacher that taught him.
The funny part that all my students just complain about my class.
Who?
Just lots of them.
Vicious
Let's continue.
cycle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Vicious cycle.
Entitled. Continue.
don't know where we were right before that.
I think we finished Catching Fire.
I think we're moving on to
Mockingjay.
Mockingjay.
Blows up the arena.
In Mockingjay?
Finds out that everyone was lying to her.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
No,
You know what? I don't remember this movie.
Visible
movie at all.
confusion.
Which is why we're doing the
Yeah,
recap.
go ahead.
in Catching Fire, she blows up the arena. She's rescued and taken away, but they captured PETA. That's how.
Oh yeah,
And
I did
Joanna.
not like that part because Peter's my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
He
rough.
He went crazy.
This last book is very few happy times, if we're being honest.
Yeah, it's really a
That's my
downer.
least favorite.
Catching Fire is the most action,
Does.
and we move away from the games in Mockingjay.
Into
We
like a
do
civil
no
war, right?
arena.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I like the idea, and this is communicated a lot better, or at least in more detail in the books. But I do like that they parallel that the war is the final Hunger Game.
Mm-hmm.
Like the games were just the model for the way that the battle is like established with the traps and the troops and all the obstacles. Basically, the final Hunger Games is the real life conflict between the capital and the rest of Panem. In many ways, the Hunger Games itself was a metaphor for that oppressive system,
Mm-hmm.
and it boils over in when war breaks out.
War, terrible war. Where we get to. So, Catching Fire, Katniss, there is no District 12 anymore. They're in this hovercraft forever, and then they get to District 13, which, surprise, exists.
Oh, yeah.
That was a big twist.
Yeah, that was a huge twist. Which we did not know existed at all.
Just
Man, these are
And
great.
they are,
I think I'm gonna
they
go back and-
are,
Yeah.
they are,
Lynx just has a flabbergasted look at his legs. He's like, "What is
That
this?"
sounds good.
Are you-
I'm trying to remember these movies.
they are fully equipped, like, military-wise. They have a lot of people that live in District 13. They have their own leader. She is a president, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
President
It's
Queen.
Julianne Moore, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Not in the
Um,
book though.
Mm.
What I find so fascinating about this. Sorry.
What?
Were you going to talk?
No, I was just laughing at what he said.
What I find really interesting, we haven't spoken of the villain, quote unquote, in this story,
That's true.
which kind of changes as you read Mockingjay.
Mm-hmm.
Our first immediate or apparent villain
PETA.
is.
Okay.
I'd say Gail, but
I would also
I-
say Gail.
or the cat.
Is it weird that I didn't remember Seneca Crane like from the books? Like I feel like his part in the
In
movie
the movie is bigger than,
significantly
yeah,
bigger.
yeah,
Okay.
than in the actual books.
And then with President Snow, he has that thing where he bleeds from the mouth.
Yeah.
Like, and they have the visual cue where he drinks from the cup at the
Yeah.
beginning of Catching Fire, but you don't really know what any of that means if you didn't read the books.
Read the book. Yeah, he has that infection.
Yeah. He basically poisoned himself
Yeah.
with the berries to create an intolerance to them so that he could poison everyone else that ran the government as he was coming up. And that's how he became like the supreme leader.
But naturally, there are side effects to that.
Yeah. Poisoning yourself. I don't know. Wesley seems great in Princess Bride.
It worked for him.
Yeah.
Do you think President Snow has seen Princess Bride?
Yeah, I think so.
That's probably where.
I think after he finishes oppressing and murdering the innocent, he just like puts his feet up and watches with his granddaughter.
It's his comfort
The
movie.
Princess Bride, yeah. President Snow has Disney Plus confirmed. Gabriel's looking at me surprised that Princess Bride is on Disney Plus. They bought 20th
You
Century
don't know
Films.
that?
Yeah, it was a big thing
I
last
just always go to
last year.
Voodoo and watch it.
I watched it like 2 days ago.
Yeah, last year it was like a big thing. Like they did a video with Carrie Ells and Robin Wright.
Really?
Yeah, and they were like, "Oh, we're together again for Disney Plus."
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was cute. You should watch it. YA novel? Who knows at this point?
Who knows?
But that's the point of this episode.
What's Link's take?
Everybody wanna be no?
Yeah, President Snow is the apparent villain in the first, I would say, 2
Mhm.
novels and leading into the third. But what I find so interesting about this series and what I really like about the writing is that towards the end of Mockingjay,
organized government is the villain.
is the bigger villain, and President Coin is actually, in the end, I think she's worse than Snow.
If it's true what they say about her, because at least in the films, is it clear that what happened? I don't.
Do you mean about the events?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is.
But is it clear because they've told us that, the audience? Are the characters within the story clear about it? I always get a sense that Katniss kills Coin, and like probably half of society is like, what just happened? Like, and I don't know that they ever get an explanation.
Is that how the fourth one ends or the third one?
The fourth one.
The fourth one. That's like the
That's
end.
how the
of
whole
it.
thing-
That's
That's how the whole
that's the
thing
ending,
ends.
The whole
right?
series ends.
Yeah, this whole time I'm like, is that how the the third one ends, and then they go into it, and I'm like, no, I think that's literally just how it.
Yeah, it just ends, and it's like flash forward the future, and like at least in the films, we don't really get any transitional
It's crazy.
period and everything. Like Katniss saves us from fascism, and then she saves us from democracy and subsequent possible fascism.
Yeah.
She just needed a third film,
She what?
a fifth film.
I
I
was
was
like,
huh?
she already got 4.
Yeah, that's the end of the Hunger Games. Do you remember any of that?
Now,
No,
this is
not
all-
at all.
We gotta
Don't-
watch them.
Not
At
convinced.
all.
Don't worry,
you've
this
actually
happens to
seen
link
it.
a lot on this show.
Yeah.
Go back and listen to our Snyderverse episode if you want. If you want to hear 3 people like stumble through a conversation with Link, we're trying to remember what happened. Cheap
I
plug,
kind of envy him.
because he gets to
It's like watching
relive
it for the
these
first
narratives
time
over and
all
over
again.
Exactly.
All right.
And then you just forget after you watch
Yeah,
it.
doesn't
and
know.
It's kind of like a
5 years,
reset.
I'll forget. Yeah. Problem is, I don't rewatch a lot of movies, so that's why I'm like, oh, I don't know what's going on.
I
What happened.
rewatch a lot of movies. I don't rewatch a lot of TV shows.
I'll rewatch a lot of TV shows for sure.
I don't rewatch
Yeah.
a lot of TV.
I don't have
shows.
the patience to rewatch a lot of TV.
Yeah, it's too
No.
many hours.
That's why I'm
Way
always
too
quoting
many.
like Arrested Development, and I'm like, how do you not get that reference that I
You
made?
I
do
know, right?
not
How did I
rewatch.
not make that deep cut reference from
Yeah. How do you
16
not get it?
episodes in? Okay, that was a lot of time on Hunger Games.
It was.
I mean, it's the biggest one.
Yeah,
let's be
I think
honest.
so. So let's move through.
It's the only
And-
one that we've all seen.
It's
That's
also,
true.
Yeah, that is true. It was the biggest. It's the only one we've all seen, allegedly. I'm not
Yeah.
entirely convinced you've actually
Yeah,
seen it.
I'm not entirely
Up for
convinced.
debate. It's also, I think, the best of the big 3. Like we said, as far as adaptations go,
Yeah, not a hot take, I don't think. Right?
not the hottest take. No.
Yeah.
We can jump to Divergent,
Yes.
which I think might be the second. Maybe biggest isn't the right word, considering that they didn't even finish the series.
How many is it supposed to be?
It was supposed to be 4,
But they did 3.
but they did 3. They don't
And-
even finish the story. Don't even get me started on
And
that.
it was probably going to be 5, right? Because you
Yeah.
have to split the
because they have to split
fourth
the
one into
last
2.
one.
But they don't finish the book or the movies.
No, the books.
No, they
finished,
finished
but
the books. They
mo-
don't
didn't-
finish adapting
No,
Okay,
they
okay.
were gonna turn the last one, which is
into 3 movies. I'm just
into
kidding.
a TV movie.
Oh, is
They
that
actually, yeah, they
really?
actually
Oh, I
like
remember
really,
hearing something like that. Yeah.
yeah.
Lifetime presents.
At that point, like the actors
Hallmark.
had pulled out, and which fair enough. I think that would have been an injustice to the series, and they couldn't really get the actors to come back for that.
Man, Shailene Woodley just dropping her projects.
Maybe it could have been a couple of years too soon, because nowadays I think it would have been picked up for like a streaming service.
Mm.
True.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very easily.
Who made those movies? Do you know?
Shailene Woodley.
Yeah, Shailene Woodley made them.
Like,
Yeah, like what studio or?
I think it was 20th Century Fox.
Sure, sounds good.
They can bring,
Fox, this is
Because I
your
think they were acquired by Disney, right?
Yeah, correct.
At some point.
Mm-hmm.
I think
they're
that might
20th
have had,
century
yeah,
films now. Yeah.
I think that might have
Had something to do with it?
Yeah.
When in doubt, blame the Disney buyout of whatever company you're complaining about right now.
I mean, so it
Fair
can,
enough.
in the future, it can become Disney Plus content.
All the characters
They
are like
could.
30 years
We're
older.
bringing
They
them
could.
back.
They
Shailene
could.
Woodley is 54.
Restart
Don't
the-
mind if they
restart
look
the
older.
series,
To be
yeah.
honest, I hate how this book series ends, so I'm fine with them not doing it.
You know what? And I think that's...
Do they not diverge at the end? They just
Do they not
Combine.
They
diverge?
con-
No, what are they?
Um,
Divergent, Insurgent?
insurrection.
No.
Allegiant?
Allegiant.
And then it
What?
was supposed to
The
be, I
airline.
think, Ascension?
Oh.
Ascendant?
Oh, there's
Ascendant?
4.
Yeah.
There's
Hmm.
3 books.
What?
No, 4 books.
Okay, I was like, they didn't adapt the book that doesn't exist.
Wait, so what are they again?
Actually, I don't know.
Divergent.
I know I was
Huh?
no now because now I'm
Divergent,
Divergent,
Insurgent,
Insurgent.
Allegiant,
Those are the 3 movies.
and
Yeah.
And then there's a 4th
Ascendant.
book, right?
Ascendant.
I don't know. I have no idea what the 4th one at all.
I believe you. It's fine.
Now I'm confusing myself. If I'm being honest.
Comment on social media when this episode goes
Don't
up.
comment on social media if you.
No one will read it, but comment.
DM
no one
us,
did the
DM us.
research. Worst show ever.
You obviously don't listen to the show.
What happened this? I don't remember.
So Divergent
Yes.
books. This all came out around the same time. Hunger Games did come out first. I think the first Divergent book.
What's the whole series about? Because I don't remember.
Because I'm not sure I saw
Yeah, I've
these
never
either.
seen it. So all I know is that she's jumping jumping.
No bridges.
No, not
Nice
bridges.
one.
She's jumping
No
like
bridges.
From what
buildings.
this is the only thing I remember, so you can correct that. Everyone's classified based on a certain set of skills that they have. Like they're based into like social classes based on what they're able to do. Am I confused
no,
look on your
it's
face?
it's
Okay,
they're
absolutely
able
wrong.
to
Continue.
they're able to choose when they come of age
Uh-huh.
what faction they would like to live in.
But they have different abilities or something, no? Like they're
Mm.
welders or like
no,
like they have
not
different career
not like
paths or
not like physical abilities like
no, like
it
career
was.
paths, like skill sets,
Yeah, more
knowledge
like
base.
yeah. So there's erudite, knowledge based,
Mhm.
candor,
I remember this now.
basically justice.
Mm-hmm.
Abnegation, which is where the main character Triss is from. They are want to say like selfless. They're
Mhm.
supposed to be selfless.
Okay.
You have dauntless, who are the rebels.
That's like a game now, right? Dauntless.
Hmm?
Is it?
I
No?
don't know.
Okay.
Why do I?
And abnegation, who are like the Hufflepuffs. Of
Why do I? Why do I?
Why do you?
Why do you remember this
Why
having not
do
seen the
you?
movies?
No, why do I connect this whole series with Shailene Woodley?
Woodley?
Shailene Woodley
Because she stars in it. Continue.
jumping.
she
Because
does
she
jump
does.
from
Jumping
she does,
like-
Jumps
like
buildings and
buildings.
walls.
She
Yeah.
does.
Is
Yeah.
that her powers? Like she's able
No,
to.
doesn't
that's
have
nobody
powers.
has
No
powers.
superpowers.
Oh, that's what that faction
So,
does.
a brief overview. She is abnegation. It's her coming of age thing. Her and her brother have to pick what faction they're going to be
Who and
in.
her brother, who she dates later.
Who she dates later in the Fall and
a
North
different
Stars.
movie, yeah. Fall and North Stars.
Do they pick the same faction?
They do not. So there is.
Oh.
It's standard that usually,
Yeah.
obviously, people would pick their same, the faction that they grew up in. There is some unrest within the factions. People are kind of I don't want to say bad mouthing abnegation, but abnegation are the people who they're the elected officials essentially because they're selfless, quote unquote. Her brother picks erudite, so goes opposite, and she picks dauntless, which is like a big
The
jump.
rebel.
Yeah, the
Mhm.
rebel group
So she doesn't
Um,
pick the house she's in.
does pick the house she's in.
Wait, isn't she
She
But
grew up
also-
abnegation, but she picks dauntless.
Because she's divergent. Spoiler
I mean, you
free.
don't have to be divergent, I think, to pick a different faction.
Oh, so why is it called divergent then?
Divergent has to do with something else.
It's okay if you. Well, I don't know. Is it okay if you spoil Divergent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spoiler-
Yeah.
spoiler alert.
Yeah.
So what was
Um,
the
Don't worry.
apprehension?
Divergent has to be so when you take a test before you get to pick what faction. It is your choice ultimately, but you take a test and it's kind of like percentages, like you're.
You know what
30%
kids
this,
love?
30%
Stories
this.
about test taking. All right, continue.
And her test results are like inconclusive, which is a really big deal. It basically means that
She's Danny O'Brien.
Brian Danielson.
when she tests inconclusive, the girl who's testing her, who happens to be dauntless, tells her that she needs to say that she tested abnegation and stay there, because
Okay.
if not, there's going to be trouble for her.
Oh
Basically,
no.
essentially, you find out the government / erudite is trying to hunt down these divergents because they basically go against everything the factions stand for.
Oh.
They are not one thing. They are like the multiple things, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The erudite leader is the Princess Bride, right? Is that the actress?
No, Kate Winslet.
Winslet.
Close. Close.
Bro.
It's a
So close.
She's a Titanic.
Oh, okay.
She is
That makes
the
sense.
Titanic.
She's so much more than Titanic. She'll always be
Um,
Ophelia and Hamlet for me. Continue.
I mean, that's kind of it. She ends up at Dauntless. Once you change factions, you can't go back. Like, you can't even talk to your family in the other one. That's like a
Oh,
big part of it.
no.
She stays there. She does really well, like exceedingly well. There are tests that they have to take throughout it, and because she does abnormally well, someone who is her love interest eventually in this, his name is Four, he figures it out, and she basically has to learn how to hide that she's divergent.
Mm-hmm. War breaks
And
out. They fight
war
the
breaks
government,
out,
blah,
all
blah, blah,
ensues.
blah.
Okay.
How does this end?
Etc.
Yeah.
That you didn't like?
Well, okay. So before we talk about that, I have heard that this was very poorly received. The ending of this series, both the books and the films, it's basically just like a downfall trajectory for both series. Like, it pretty much doesn't have many fans left by the end of each series. So that's true.
Yeah, she dies at the end of the book series, and
Oh man, I haven't read.
Rip
yeah,
Kate Winslet.
honestly,
That's not.
don't watch it. It's not Kate Winslet.
Wait, she dies though, right? Or is she just in prison? Or what happens to her?
In the movies? In the books?
We're just trying to piece back like a series of films we didn't watch.
I cannot remember. I've
Oh, you
watched
did
two-
see them all?
I saw two of them. I didn't watch the third
Yeah,
one.
so you don't know how the third one ends.
Ah, see? We're the same.
It doesn't matter because they don't end.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter because they don't even end.
But Kate Winslet makes it through all of them?
No.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
No.
What
No,
about
no,
that?
no, I
Okay.
don't think so. I think she dies at the end of the third movie. She definitely dies in the series.
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty sure she dies.
She was
in
like, I'm not
So-
going back for the TV movie.
So, so what happens to Triss, right?
she dies.
Oh, no.
But, like,
But
is it
not
like-
in the movies, right?
Not in the movies because they didn't
They
get
didn't
to
get
that
there.
book.
Right.
Who's Triss?
I think
The main
I'm
main
pretty sure
character.
the
Shady
movies
Green.
Oh,
end
what? Her
with
name is not Divergent?
Why would her name be Divergent?
her name is Triss Pryor, Beatrice Pryor,
Okay. Beatrice, though.
or Triss. I think is what they call
Is
it.
it like a sacrifice?
What
thing,
is it
or-
that makes what
Did
makes
she volunteer as tribute?
that's a
essentially.
different series. What is it that makes this series like such a disappointment to the fandom?
Wait, I want to start off by saying that I did like relatively enjoy this. I just killing off a main character I think is
A poor choice.
rough. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't love that. I can respect it, but I don't love it, and I think a lot of
Okay, but a
fans
lot
do.
of people don't like where this series ends up. Why? I'm not saying it's bad because I haven't read it or seen it, but
I think with any series in general, there's usually something that the main character has to go through or sacrifice to come out in the end.
Mhm.
There's a redemption in that.
right.
Like Katniss, she enters the games because she wants to save her sister, and in the end, her sister dies, and that's her sacrifice. Katniss gets to live this life, but unfortunately,
Right.
her sister does.
The
I
fact
don't
that
remember her sister dying.
the fact that you're apparently spoiling Link on a
Yeah.
series she's already watched and read.
I read only the first two.
Oh, okay.
It essentially just seemed like an unnecessary death. Her brother tries to eventually her brother tries to sacrifice himself,
Mhm.
and she tells him no, and she does instead. Her and Four, who is her like love interest.
Mhm.
Fore or Fo?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
like
think
golf,
he's-
like the golf term.
Like the
FOUR or FOR?
No, like the number.
He's a good driver.
Not
Mm.
negative, not in this series. That's in the
No.
other one.
No, because he says four. Okay, continue.
Like
No.
golf.
Like,
Yeah,
I
movie.
feel like I'm doing a really poor job of explaining it, but
I don't think you have to explain it.
That's okay.
he's called Four because he has 4 fingers. If you were wondering.
Ah.
I did not know.
Whatever.
that.
They break up like
Mhm.
at the end of that series book, anyways, and then he's away and she dies, and he comes back and finds out, and then he essentially ends up with Christine, her best friend.
And she ends up with
Oh,
her
oh,
brother.
She ends up dead.
Oh,
Mm. Did they break up because of the 4-finger thing?
I mean,
was that a deal breaker?
would that be a deal breaker for you, Link?
I don't think she
No,
said
no,
it
not
directly,
at all.
but probably.
Oh man.
Dang.
They changed a lot in this book to movie adaptation. I
Mhm.
think that's probably where the fault lied. I also don't know how much of it is. I don't want to say that it's the actors not committing to a project. I think.
You don't like Shaylee? Okay, confirmed. Continue.
No, I do like Shailene Woodley. I think it seemed like a culmination of things. I think with 20th Century Fox being bought out, with changing the sequences, and I think it might have kind of been doomed from the start. I think it's really rough to try and adapt something where the ultimate sacrifice is the main character dies. I think that's really hard to watch.
Yeah. I would have been upset if I ever made it there.
Pretty much.
Oof.
Yeah, so I think they were kind of doomed from the start, if I'm being honest. We can jump to Maze Runner really
Yeah.
quickly.
Did that one end on a downer?
No one knows.
That one.
It ends with them
No
eating
one's seen
corn.
it.
What?
It ends with them eating corn.
Ah.
Because of
'Cause of
maze.
Corn maze, yeah.
Yeah.
I see what you did there.
Because of corn maze?
Yeah, like those corn mazes.
No, I thought it
Maze.
was
Oh,
be-
like maize?
I thought it was because corn is called maize among Native American
no,
and
it's-
Spanish.
It works
speaking.
both ways.
Yeah,
I
it
got
Okay.
It was multi-layered.
Wow, that was deep.
That was deep.
Maze Runner.
Maze Runner is interesting because they
Is it
changed.
now?
Yes, they changed the movie plot completely.
Oh wow.
To
Oh.
like where the last two books. It's basically like irrelevant to what they did in the movies. However, I think this series did better than Divergent overall.
You like the movies?
I do like the movies. I
Okay.
do like the movies. I do think the book is better, and I think you're just always going to get more out of a book, but I thought they did a good job. But I also just think, when I say I think they did better, I think they just performed better overall. Hence, they were able to finish the series at the very least.
How many movies does the Maze Runner have? Is it a trilogy?
Mhm.
Tetralogy?
3.
3 is just a
It's
trilogy.
No.
Oh, is it a tetralogy?
Tetralogy.
It's 3 movies.
3, okay. And
3
how many?
books, 3 movies.
3
Three
books,
books,
3
3
movies.
movies.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
I can
no
respect
split.
that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why it worked.
Hmm.
Or didn't work, I guess.
Yeah,
Whoever you
Rise
asked.
of Skywalker Part 1 and 2.
Who are the
I don't wanna talk about it.
actors that are like? Who's the main character?
I really like Dylan O'Brien,
Dylan
actually.
O'Brien,
He's great.
And
Yeah.
that's the guy from
Teen Wolf.
Teen Wolf.
Yeah,
from
Teen
the
Wolf.
Taylor Swift video.
I'm pretending I never saw it.
It is the guy from the Taylor Swift video.
That's Jake
Is that the new
Gyllenhaal.
one?
Jake
Yeah.
Gyllenhaal, right?
Oh, the
Yeah.
Taylor
Yeah.
Swift video. Also,
Mm.
have
Haven't
not
seen that one.
Just talk about it.
Then we like him because that's what my
I love
students
Dylan
tell me.
O'Brien.
Yeah.
I'm a big
He's
fan.
great.
I guess I have to Google this guy later. Wait, that came off wrong. Continue.
Wait, so a girl's not the main character? Is this guy?
Yeah, the guy is the main
Oh,
character,
okay.
actually,
Yeah.
which I feel like in Dystopia
Oh.
is not super common.
Yeah, that's true because YA tends to be female driven at least.
Yeah.
Nowadays.
Yep.
I hadn't even noticed that.
It is a guy.
Does that make me progressive?
Are there other main other popular characters? I mean, actors in this movie, in this franchise? I'm sorry.
Not huge, but
Is there like a little Irish kid in this cast? I don't know why I remember this. Like a little redheaded Irish kid in the first one.
the guy who plays Newt, forget the actor's name. He's the kid from. Wait, maybe I'm misquoting this. Is he the kid from August Rush? Am I making that up?
Longest Yard.
No one saw August Rush, so it doesn't matter.
You guys didn't see August Rush?
No, that's with like Kira.
Nightly.
I don't
Nope,
remember anything
not
about
her.
that movie. If I'm being completely
No,
honest,
it's
except
not.
for, it's not
It's
him,
not.
right? That's the kid from James and the Giant Peach.
What?
He's
Isn't
Ferb
that
from
Anna-
Phineas and Ferb. I
Oh!
didn't
Oh, you didn't recognize him?
know that. He's the little boy from Love Actually.
Love Actually.
Ah,
That's
yes, yes. Wait, okay, so is August Rush the movie where his mom is that girl, Felicity? That girl that, who's the director of Rise of Skywalker? Man, J.J. Abrams.
Oh,
Trevor, you were going to say Colin Trevorrow?
I
No.
wish.
J.J. Abrams is in love with that girl, Felicity? Is that they play guitar or something?
Oh, it has this guy. I like
Yeah.
this guy.
Is
Yeah.
he Irish?
Oh,
guy's
that's
awesome.
Adam Warlock.
Yeah. It's
Soon to be.
Will
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 Poulter.
Poulter.
Poulter. I
Yeah,
like
that's his
him.
name. That's his name.
What movie did I see him in that I loved him?
The one with
Son of Rambo.
Oh, Son of Rambo. That
Yeah.
is that is a deep cut. That movie is so good. Have you ever seen Son of
I've
Rambo?
not.
Oh
That is
my-
not
To-
where I
Oh,
recognize him
it's so
from.
good.
To all our listeners, Son of Rambo. If you've ever seen a Rambo film, go watch Son
Oh,
of
it has-
Rambo.
it has,
it's amazing.
Her, the mom they love from Mother Lovers.
PBS.
Oh, I like her. Patricia Clarkson.
Yeah.
She was in a WWE film with Randy Orton once.
Really?
Yeah.
Which one?
I think Randy Orton is like an English teacher. It's actually a pretty good movie.
What?
I think it's actually a decent movie.
Is it Dead Poet Society?
Yes. Dead Poet Society 2 out of nowhere.
But yeah, Son of Rambo.
That's not, yeah, that was
No,
That's
but
what
you
he's
were
going
talking-
back to?
you were talking-
Usually you use transitions to get back to the
No,
topic.
but you were talking about Son of Rambo.
Yeah. I told everybody to watch it, and that's
Yeah,
pretty much
it's
it.
so good.
Yeah.
It's this kid who his parents are like
Now we're talking about Son of
his
Rambo.
parents are like very conservative, like
Episode
religiously
title, Son of Rambo.
conservative, and this kid played by Will Poulter, shows him like the Rambo movie,
Mhm.
and then they start
They
creating
reenact it.
reenact like
Yeah, they make a sequel
sequel.
to it, Son of
Yeah.
Rambo. That's like,
That's adorable.
it's beautiful.
That's great.
Yeah, it's way better than the Maze Runner. Maybe we should do an
It's
episode
way
just
better
about
than
Son of Rambo.
Divergent.
You never even see Divergent.
Oh, taking Leannie's word.
And the internet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's also, I think her name is Kaya or KS Godelario.
Yeah, I saw that her too. Yeah.
She was in Skins, the UK version of Skins, the TV show, which I really liked when I was younger. So I was really excited that she was in it. She plays Teresa.
Mm.
Oh, she's the female lead in Pirates, right? That other No Dead Man Tell No Tales.
Yeah. And
I remember there being a big jump in the second movie
mhm,
where, like, the first one is about running a maze. That
Mhm.
seemed obvious.
mhm.
And then the second one is about zombies. If I.
Yeah.
And I was,
Yeah.
and I got real lost real fast. Where I was like,
So-
how did we get here?
So I feel like the series is really complicated. So to try and explain it, I'm sure someone's done it, and there's an overview on the internet that we could look up. That's much simpler than me.
Just
trying
put
to
it in
explain
the show notes.
Okay.
Also, someone create show notes.
Yeah, essentially these kids wake up in this place called the Glade, which is the maze, and they don't know why they're there, but they know that they've been put there, and they basically have to survive against these like external factors and creatures.
Mm.
That was
They
like camping
eventually-
trips growing up.
Right. They eventually break out of the maze, and then the books and the movies take two very different turns.
Okay. Very briefly, what is different, like, from the books and the movie?
Well, so the reason they're put in there, which you find out later on, is they're basically like test subjects.
Mhm.
So this is like post-apocalyptic, basically. There is
Dystopian, even?
yeah, dystopian, one would say. There is this disease, I guess. In the books, it's an airborne disease. They call it the flare when it happened. Basically, the sun.
Coronavirus.
Yeah.
2019.
And it turned people into what they call cranks, which are basically zombies. However, in the movies, you just have to like it turns into a zombie movie where you have to be like bitten or scratched by one. The point of the series after in the books is they're trying to find a cure. So they have these people that are immune to the flare, basically,
Mhm.
and they're trying to find a cure. In the movies, we just assume they're immune.
The characters,
Yeah,
the main characters.
yeah.
Okay.
In the books, they are not.
Because they ran the maze, or
Because they put them there and they tested them and they knew
Oh.
that they were.
so it all ties into the maze running.
Yeah, so in the book, they're trying to find a cure. In the movies, they don't really need one.
Oh, wow.
I tried to read this book, but I accidentally checked out The Kite Runner,
Also a great book.
and that was a great
Also a
book.
great
So I highly recommend The Kite Runner. It's beautiful.
I read that as a kid.
Yeah. Oh.
It was really strange.
Yeah. It was
I was
life
like,
altering.
It is.
I was like, what does this mean? And then I watched the movie and I'm like, oh.
Yes. Yeah.
1,000 Splendid Suns by that same author is also a great book.
Mm.
By the same author of The Maze Runner, or
No, the same author as
Oh.
The Kite Runner.
Kite Runner.
There's always that thing where
pretty
like
sure.
there's always that thing where like an author has like that one book that everybody knows, and then they don't know any other titles. Like they go on to have an entire life and career of works, and it's just like, what else did Hemingway write? What did the guy who wrote The Alchemist write? Other than
Yeah.
good stuff.
Bringing it back to like a
Sound of Rambo.
a bigger like overarching point. I guess you would say, and what we talked about earlier, like how or why these stories resonate. I think at the end of the day, like, we're interested, I think, in stories about people who overcome, like, extraneous circumstances,
Adversity.
yeah, which is the point in any story.
Mm-hmm.
I think why it worked at a certain point and then it kind of fell off, is because although these stories are interesting, I don't really think they evolved at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you think about all these stories, they kind of have the same tropes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Sometimes it feels like you're just kind of recycling.
Yeah, it's still like, not that these are like real people, but
Yeah.
like, it doesn't make their stories invalid or anything, but
Yeah.
you can only read it so many times before.
It's almost like the story of this episode where we were like super invested into the Hunger Games, and then
And
it's like,
everything else. Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of Divergent, and what happened in Maze Runner
Yeah.
now? And it was like, I think there's a saturation point
Yeah.
for audiences, and I think that's happening in other genres now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we'll see what comes and goes outside of the popular cultural zeitgeist. But I think we're in that transition period, especially as I think Gabe mentioned, like, oh, I haven't seen this stuff and I won't, because you're like oversaturated
Right.
with
And at
these
this
stories.
point, it kind of feels not irrelevant because I don't think.
Because it
books
wasn't
are-
just these 3 series of films. What were some of the other like popular, just to go through them?
Yeah, yeah.
Rapid
So
fire.
these were like the biggest like book to movie adaptations, and I think that's naturally why more people know them. But there are a lot of other series that were really big as series, but not weren't ever adapted. There's a series called Shatter Me. There's a series called Match. There's a series called Legend by Marie Lu.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of others.
The 100?
The 100 is a YA dystopia.
Oh, I saw that TV show.
Oh, did you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I got like 4 seasons in, and I was like, I can't do this anymore.
I really like that TV show.
Did you finish it?
I did not finish it.
I only read articles about the show,
Yeah.
and it was just
It's like one book, like a short book, and they made this TV show off of it.
and it was just like, this is super progressive. This is controversial. This is regressive. This is.
I mean, like, the first
Yeah.
season hooked me,
Yeah.
and then season 2, I was like, probably not as good, but okay. 3, and then it just fell off from there. For me, I don't know if
That was
anyone
on
else enjoys it.
on CW, right?
Yeah.
It was on the
Okay.
CW.
Listen, I was already watching like 5 shows on CW, and this one did not have any superheroes from the DC universe in it.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not about that. I'm sorry, guys.
Which is a shame because I actually think this is one of the CW's better shows.
It's just everyone I knew who watched it angrily watched it. Like all they would do was complain about the show, and I was like, why do you watch it then? It's like, oh,
I feel like
it's-
that's any CW TV show though,
Yeah,
isn't it?
That is,
Yeah.
that's
Isn't
very
it?
true.
That's kind
Yeah.
of the.
Yeah.
That's kind of the standard.
That's true. That's how I felt about all those DC shows I was watching. That's fair.
Other honorable mentions. Ender's Game. I know you want to argue that it's maybe not YA.
Spoilers. How do you know that? You reading my mind right now?
Are there no young people?
No, they are young people
Oh,
for
okay.
sure. But this is like a science fiction classic, and I was really late
It's-
to the game
yeah.
because everyone was telling me
Mhm.
like, you should read this. You should read this as a kid, and I was like, I don't know, it looks weird. Which for no reason, because like I'm obviously super into sci-fi, but there's always that like ceiling where you're like, that's too nerdy. That's I don't know. Ender's Game was a really old book by Orson Scott Card. Another part of it is that as a teen, I read Orson Scott Card's Iron Man, and that book was atrocious and like blasphemy to everything Tony Stark is. He's like a little blue kid. Like I don't even want to talk about it. Look up Orson Scott Card's Iron Man. Just look at pictures of Orson Scott Card's Iron Man and get back to me. But I just rejected this offhand. So I read this as an adult, and this book is complex. It's multi-layered. It's multifaceted. And the series goes off in a super weird direction from that point on. And it's basically like Dune for
Mhm.
younger audiences. But I think it's like way more complex than most YA fiction. And I also think that it's a science fiction classic. I think it's like a foundational novel. That's why I'm like apt to not
To not
categorize
just
it as
categorize
YA
it as
because
YA.
of just the stigma. You know, I think that as much as I respect, you know, as an educator and as someone who studied this, literally took college courses just about, you know, young adult fiction, there's still that stigma that it's like it's here and then here is serious literature on the other side of the aisle, which isn't fair. But there's definitely a dividing line somewhere. It's like I love Star Wars and Marvel superheroes, but it's gonna be a hard sell to tell me it should be like the Oscar picture of the year, you know? And that's just the way I guess I'm wired. I know that opinion changes depending on the audience, but at least that's how I see it.
Was the movie good?
Ender's Game.
And,
all right.
Yeah,
I
liked it.
I wish they would have.
It's
I
not
think would
epic.
be- no, it's not epic. And I think if they would have made it now and they would have done it as a TV series,
Yeah.
I think it would be so good.
There's a popular actor in that movie.
Harrison Ford.
There you go.
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
There's a popular
I was
actor.
gonna say. There's someone.
There's several actually,
Yeah.
because it's one of those other ones where like all the adults in the film are like super good actors.
I was gonna say there's someone Harrison
No?
Ford level in
Hey,
that.
no,
film,
yeah, is
in the movie.
Haley Steinfeld is in it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Kate
she's
Bishop's
great.
in
That
it.
movie.
Yeah.
I felt the same way about The Giver. I felt like The Giver is such a quintessential YA novel,
Mm-hmm.
and the film has such a great cast, but the film is not epic.
It
It
has
is not.
Harrison Ford as well,
It
right?
is not.
Ah, it has Ben Kingsley.
Your favorite part of Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
It's such a weird take, but okay. Anyways, I think it's that it doesn't live up to the expectations of the novel that precedes it.
Are you talking about The Giver, or are you talking?
I'll say both. I'll say in both instances, both movies are good movies. They're fun movies, and I would like them, except that they're The Giver and Ender's Game, and I don't know. It's like gourmet versus fast food. That's what it is.
Isn't Harrison Ford also in The Giver?
No, that's a
You can't keep putting Harrison Ford in movies
No,
that
no,
he's
no,
not
no,
in.
okay.
no,
In
'cause-
Link's defense, you can keep
No.
putting Harrison Ford in.
No,
every
no,
movie.
because I do know that Harrison Ford is executive producer of The Giver.
Really?
Yeah, he bought the rights to make a show.
Are you sure it's not Jeff Bridges?
There we go. There we go.
Yes, he is The Giver.
Okay,
actually.
that's what I meant.
I was about to be like, yeah, Harrison Ford, Call of the Wild. He just does these passion projects. man.
Yeah.
Well, recently, several weeks or months ago, you guys illuminated to me that Will Smith executive produces The Karate Kid. So at this point,
true.
almost anything is possible.
Yes, it was Jeff Bridges.
I see Matt Damon's name all over stuff that is like, what?
That he has no business.
Yeah,
being
exactly. Like Leonardo DiCaprio produced who?
I mean, if it's a climate change movie, it's produced by Leo.
Okay.
Very true.
An Inconvenient Truth 3?
There's a third. There's a second one.
What, you don't know? Yeah, it was also nominated for like best documentary film.
I actually didn't know there was a second one.
Ah.
Oh yeah. It might not be about climate change. It might be about another social issue tied into climate change, but I could be wrong because I also did not see the second one.
Mm.
I think that leaves us with a question: where do we see YA dystopia going?
Okay, really quick before that.
Yeah.
This title just creeps up in my mind because I've only heard the title
Yeah.
for someone else who shall remain nameless. The Red Queen. What's this series
Yeah.
about?
I actually recently read that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I did DNF it though twice.
Explain to our audiences
And
because
Link.
clearly I know what that
And
means.
Link, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, did not finish.
Oh.
I did not
okay.
finish that
Oh, okay.
series. I tried twice. I tried reading the whole series.
So not a fan?
I did like it. I didn't love it. I don't know what it is. I'm more frustrated. I tried finishing it like 3 weeks ago, and I'm still really frustrated that I can't. And I don't know if I'm just not in the right headspace.
In like what sentence? One sentence. What is it about?
It is about it's typical. There is a young girl
Okay.
who lives in a society where classes are divided by silvers and reds. That has to do with their blood. Basically, silvers have powers, and they are naturally live a different life than reds.
So
who have no
basically,
powers.
what Link thought Divergent was.
Oh.
Essentially,
Okay.
yeah.
Maybe you should
Um,
read this book.
Yeah, sounds good.
There is a young red girl. That sounds not correct, but
No, it's okay.
Starfire.
No, it's okay. I
In
read
context.
Orson Scott Card's Iron Man, so it's about a young blue boy.
essentially, she starts to work in the palace for these Silvers and gets put in a situation where she finds out that she actually has powers, even though she has red blood.
Mm-hmm.
And they
Divergent.
Yeah. Instead of killing her, they basically set it up so that she has to marry the young prince so they can hide who she actually is, and revolution ensues.
I really like how you strung all those thoughts together into one sentence.
I love a good run-on sentence.
Yep.
A lot of hyphenated.
Colons, comma.
colons.
Yeah.
Parentheses.
Sorry, I don't want to like bash on that series because it is really good, and there are a lot of plot twists that are
original and creative.
That really get you.
Mhm.
I don't know if the second time reading it, my issue was that I felt like I had read all of it before because I got like 3 books in and then DNF'd it again.
How many are there?
62.
No, I think there are. I think it's one of those series where like they have the original and then there are like more that you don't really need to read.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay.
I think.
Like Wonder.
If I'm wrong,
DM
please
us.
don't be mad at me.
Okay, so the future, you said.
Yeah, the future of dystopia, yes, in general, but we're speaking of YA dystopia.
Is there anything on the horizon, like anything?
Well, there are people, like I said, it's still a genre that is being written. We talked about like the boom and whether under this current political climate that would kind of come about again. It seems like it hasn't, so I don't really know. I would be interested to see after, basically 3 years of a pandemic.
Perhaps the culture is ripe for a reemergence,
Yeah.
if not there yet.
Yeah, they very well might be. So I'd be interested.
A resurgence.
Okay, so if you had to recommend something to 3 Neanderthals who are not in tune, and for our listeners who may want to look back at this period and explore some of these titles, what do you think would be some recommendations in this genre?
I would say go reread The Hunger Games, to be honest.
If anyone hasn't read The Hunger Games, definitely go. And if you have, reread them.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a 4th book now.
There is. She just released it, I think, like a year ago?
It was during the pandemic, I
yeah,
believe.
a year ago, 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long title that I don't remember.
Is it
Ballad
the
of
same-
something.
same-
The Ballad
Characters?
of Songbirds and Snakes?
Yeah, that
Mhm.
sounds right. I think it's a prequel following President Snow.
Okay.
I think this book was, I'm not going to say controversial, but I think some people were like, yeah, it was fine.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot.
You
I
read it. That's
Yeah.
right. You did say you read it.
Yeah. It was.
Then why am I talking about it? You talked
Did-
about it.
Did they show that part where he just overthrows the government by himself?
No, he's very, very young.
Oh.
All right. I'm going to do the 1 minute, the one
Go for it.
sentence pitch.
Maybe you'll do a better job than I did.
You did great. What are you
Low
talking
bar.
about?
Y.A. Snow
Young adult.
falls for a girl in his youth,
Barely.
very similar to Katniss.
What?
That's it. That's all I'll say. And their relationship on other sides of the coin. And it starts not like how you would think.
Is the girl fascism?
Is the girl fascism as well?
You got to read to find out.
Mm.
And what it is it is definitely the very early origin of Snow, but it's more the origin of the Hunger Games. Because it doesn't get super far into, like, it's about if I remember correctly, about a year into his life. So he's still very young, but they developed the Hunger Games in the book.
But it's good and it's your recommendation.
Oh, I definitely recommend it. How'd I end up with a recommendation on this episode?
Boom.
Okay, yeah.
I read
You
the
read a book I
I
haven't.
read The
Okay.
Giver in middle school. I recommend that.
Yes, absolutely.
Solid.
Yeah.
I actually, for a new series, I recently read a series called Shatter Me, which was
Mhm.
really popular back then. I just never read it. And a good friend of mine was like, you need to just read it so we can talk about it. And I actually really liked it. It's written, like the stylistic choices that the author made and how it's actually written. And there are like, kind of like journal notes. So the perspective is kind of weird, but very interesting. So would recommend.
Now we're all looking at Gabe.
Oh, go reread The Hunger Games.
Unoriginal.
That's fair.
Technically,
We took everything on the
Can we
list.
recommend manga? Because apparently that's why.
That's why.
Is-
Is it a YA dystopian manga?
Yeah, go read Attack on Titan.
Hey.
Hey,
Yeah.
Today you've learned.
It's
Attack on
very
Titan.
similar to Hunger Games.
I thought you were going to say Divergent.
No.
Having no knowledge of Divergent, I want to say it's very similar to Attack on Titan.
Because it does that thing where, okay, so, Hunger Games is about the Hunger Games, right? But then the last book, whoa, it's no longer about the Hunger Games. Now there's a war. That's how Attack on Titan is. It's like, oh, it's about this. But then in season 4, you're like, okay, this is not what I signed up for.
Okay, I thought he was
Right.
going to go on to continuously spoil season 4 of Attack on Titan
That's
Last
not-
time.
for the hosts
No
and the
spoilers,
listeners.
please.
All right. So thank you for taking the time to join us this week to give us some insight on a topic that we knew very little about. Perhaps more than we thought we did, but less than we should. Sometimes when we look back at these stories and in this period, we see how the stories that are told in a certain span of time reflect the conflicts and issues that go on in that time. We can learn from those times past because our literature is a reflection of our history. And as we know, history operates in a circle. What is old is new again. And the stories of our past tell us what our future might look. And that's why in the stories that we tell, oftentimes we have our eyes set in a distant time, a time where the consequences of our actions today lead to events and situations that for us living may be unimaginable. But if we don't take the steps to reflect on those stories now, we fall into the folly of creating those prophecies or those fulfillments that we write for ourselves. So looking at the past to read stories of our future helps us know how to shape the present today. And that power lies in the hands of each and every one of us. So I invite you to look at this reflection of our society and look inwards so that you can shape outwards the time and the place that you live in today. And in the meantime, as you continue along your journey, we'll follow along beside you and keep on searching.